It's Emily. So I am coming to you to share a little bit of my testimony, to share how God provides in the nick of time. So I have two occurrences where God really showed his hand, and the situation is still ongoing, right? There's still a lot more to climb, mountains to climb and hills to get on top of. But God has already showed his hand, and I wanted to come and share the goodness of this God that we are serving. And so since February, I would say early February, God took me on a journey to be obedient, to serve him only, and to build a company. And for that, it called me to give up my job, to quit, to sit at his feet and listen to what he had to say. And so I did that, and it was not an easy process. I tried to apply to a couple of jobs. It didn't work. In the meantime, I had no income, and so I had only my last paycheck, and that ran out at the end of February. And then in March, there was I'm not without people. Like, I have my mom, and my mama was helping me, but at that time she was given that, I gave the news that I quit my job. I couldn't tell the full context of, like, hey, I quit my job because God told me to. Although I hinted at it, she told me, like, listen, I'm not helping you by always providing and needing you, right? You need a better job. Basically, I'm not going to help you. I'm cutting you off. So I knew that God wanted to, by this, make me so reliant on him. And so by we were 13th of March, I had some payments that were due. And my pastor, like the pastor's wife, this is another testimony, but my pastor really supernaturally gave to me, right? She provided. And so she first approached me and said, listen, I have a few things on my heart. And she asked me, like, how are you doing? Like, what's going on in your life? And I took it as a sign from God to share a little bit about the journey I had gone. And I was sharing simply that, listen, I am on a journey to truly, like, obey God. And I have to listen and obey and follow direction, right? And right now, things are a little tough financially. My account is in the minus, but it doesn't matter. I believe, like, God gave me his word that he would provide, and I believe him. And when I was sharing that, I was really at peace. I was not sharing to get, I was sharing, like, here is the situation, and I know that God is going to provide. And so it was during a prayer night, and we were just a few, and I asked God, I know I'm expecting you to show up. And so we go and we do our set, and we pray, and it was like God moved that night so supernaturally. It was at the same time, it was intimate and it was powerful for the revelation of the words, right? And at the end of the night, my pastor says, oh, I put something in your pocket, right? So you would go and look. And then I went and get a few of my things. And when I came back, I put my hand in my pocket and I felt, and it was an envelope, and it was a little thick. And so because we were leaving, I was shy, I didn't want to look at it right away. And so I kind of discreetly said my thank you. I sent her an audio note, and then they dropped me off at home because my car, the clutch had died, everything was not going. Like, God has, I started, like, steadily removing everything I was relying on so that I solely rely on him. So all that to say that I was walking everywhere I went to church, and I'm still walking. And so I felt the envelope, and then at home, I opened the envelope, and it was like cash, a wad of cash, $500. And I was overwhelmed. I was like, wow. And it came at a nick of time because that Friday, the car payment had, gone through, and supernaturally, it did not reject the payment because there were no funds. It went into like the minuses. And then it was enough to cover the amount. And I had asked God actually for that very amount. I calculated and I said, I'm going to need about $500 to cover not only for the car payment and insurance, but to pay a few of the bills and to have money for groceries and money for this and that. And it was $500 in the envelope. I was overwhelmed. The next day I went, I deposited the money, not the money, but I deposited the money. It flowed back the account and the payment went without any problem. That was on March 13th. And after that, on March 15th, it's such a testimony, guys. That's why I'm making this face. So on March 15th, God gave me a revelation, and he said, okay, it's time for you to go. Because he had told me for a while since February, and I hope y'all track it. Basically, it was time. I'm sure that it was time to go. I speak to from my pastor and then the pastor's wife, and trying to explain as much as possible. There's a situation around it. It boiled down to, it was time for me to go. God is calling me out. Right, I'm on this journey to follow. And by that time, right, all the payments that I had to do, everything, the money, the finance, it was spent. And I was like, oh, well, God, also, with everything, like I had paid the bills, I was in groceries, and I tried to put some credit on my phone, but it wasn't enough. I had forgotten that I had a plan, and it's not enough to just reload. I needed to pay a certain amount with I didn't have. So for the longest time, up until then, at this point, I think we were like March 15. So from the beginning of March until now, I have no phone. And so the things that I needed to organize, right, I had some money in another account, but they needed to verify my phone number. And I couldn't receive the text because I didn't have a phone. And I was like, okay, I believe that you want to show that you're going to do something. So I'm going to trust you with this. But I need to dispose of my car, right? I need to make a call to get it towed. It's a whole situation, but I needed to do a few things. I need to do more money. I need access to it. I need to buy food for the cats. I need to buy, everything. This is, and by the way, I'm glad I'm documenting this because I'm in the thick of it, but I know for sure these two things God did miraculously. And actually there's a third one which I'm gonna share afterwards. So I say, God, you're gonna have to show up, right? You're gonna have to show up because I have no means. Even if I would want to pay for this or that, I cannot. And I didn't want to contact my mom. I didn't want to. I said, this is your doing. I believe you're calling me to obey you, to trust you, that you're my provider, and so I'm gonna strictly rely on you. And my last Sunday at that church, there's a lady that I've grown attached to, and she cried. And I said I was leaving. So anyway, so I knew, to me it made sense, but to them it was a shock. I'll have to say that little lady, she was really, what can we say it? She was sad. She was sad. She had grown attached to me. I had grown attached to her. But she handed me an envelope with $50 in it. And again, I had asked God, so listen, I need at least quickly, because I need, like, what I miss from my phone is about $10. And then I need to buy, again, food for the cats and a few groceries. And I believe I'm going to be able to do something with that. And so there it was in the envelope on that last Sunday. So again, I was able to go, right? And at that, they had, there's been a withdrawal in my account. And so what was left was just enough for me to transfer the money to my phone, right? To top it off and to be able to receive calls and texts and make the flow from my other account, so for me to get some money. So that's the second thing, and the second time where God provided supernaturally. And so, all right, God, I was like, okay, I trust you. I believe you. You are really doing this. And one of the conditions, actually, where he didn't want me to work is because he wanted me to obey. He had been telling me and asking me to start a company, right, for at least the past 5 years. To this, that's when I had the idea to write the revelation and write an ebook according to the blueprint of creation, the Genesis blueprint. And you can have that on my store. There's a link below if you want to download it. So the Genesis blueprint was birthed out of that. And so throughout, I think I started writing it in in February, and the plan was to write it in 7 days, but I kept having revelation and it was tough. So from February, beginning of February, right, up until now, that's what I did. I stopped and wanted to study other things, and then I came back to it, and it was to be my only occupation. So now the book is finished and I'm free, but I had many other things happened, right? And one of them was my car. January 30th, I'm on my way home. My car breaks down. I drive ship and my car breaks down on my way up in the slope, right? And I call my pastor, they come and help me. We put the car to the side, and I hope for the best. I go to work. The next day was my last day of work, and I go by bus, right? But all through that, I kept my car at the church, right? Because they have a parking lot that they have for the leaders. I was part of leadership, and my car stayed there basically for about 2 months. But when I announced my departure on the 15th, it was time to go. I didn't have the funds, and I didn't have a phone, so I couldn't call my dealership. I couldn't receive any calls. So on the Sunday, the 22nd, that's when I got the $50. I was able to, get the money, transfer the money to have my phone back on. That was on the 23rd. And on the 23rd, I made the call to my car dealership. And turns out, like usually they try to upsell you a lot of things, but this time it worked for my good. She had added a guarantee, like a warranty for 3 years, which included towing. So I managed to have my car towed, right, free of charge on that Tuesday. Well, on the 23rd, I had to give back also I had borrowed a computer. So on the 23rd, I finished the book last minute, right, and finished on the 24th. And on 24th, I made the arrangement to have the car towed to the nearest garage and have it inspected. And some of the warranty will cover the expenses of the car. But where we are in the story is that much of them, it won't be covered, and that part is up to God. But this is my testimony, and God is still writing it, and I am believing him for the rest. I know he's going to provide. He's given me a word. He's let me know many times supernaturally that through words of knowledge, through his word, and within our conversation when I prayed that he would provide, and he will provide it. If you trust in him, if you obey and trust and seek his face, he's faithful. He's faithful. He's going to provide. So that is it for now. Follow me along as I basically walk this journey with God and trust in him. And the name of the company is called Goshen Media, which means to draw close to God. And he made his promise. If we draw close to him, he will draw close to us and answer our needs. So up until then, take care. Much love. Bye.